What we're going to be covering in this video are Booleans, comparison operators, Boolean operators, binary Boolean operators, and mixing Boolean and comparison operators. So while integer, floating point, and string data types have an unlimited number of possible values, the Boolean data type has only true values. It is either true or false. Boolean is capitalized because the data type is named after the mathematician George Boole. When typed as Python code, the Boolean values true and false lack the quotes you place around strings, and they always start with a capital T or F with the rest of the word in lowercase. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and set eggs equal to true. And we will display eggs, and what it comes back as true, you can see that we don't have the single quotation marks and the T is capitalized. We could do the same thing, set eggs equal to false, and then go ahead and display eggs, and it will equal to false. If you try to use true or false, the Boolean values true or false as a variable, you will get an error since they are keywords. So if we try to do the same thing with false, we'll get the same error since true and false are keywords in the Python programming language. So what we're going to look at next are comparison operators, and what they do is they compare two values and evaluate down to a single Boolean value. So the first comparison operator we're going to look at is the equality operator, and that is two equal signs. So if we type in 55 equals 55, that will return true. If we type in 55 equals 89, that should return false. The next one we're going to look at is the not equals operator. So if we type in 5 not equals to 1, that will return true because 5 is not equal to 1. However, if we type in 3 is not equal to 3, that will return false because 3 is actually equal to 3. You can also go ahead and compare strings. So if we go ahead and compare goodbye equals to goodbye, that will return true. And then if you go ahead and compare the string goodbye equal to goodbye with a capital G, that will return false as it matches the case in strings. So in order to be equal, they must match case. Next we're going to use the not equal. So bird is not equal to cat, and that should return true. And then if we go ahead, we can actually compare our bools. True equal to true, that will return true. And true is not equal to false, and that will return true also because true is not false. So if we try and compare a 55 integer value to a 55 floating point number, that will return true. And if we try to compare a 55 integer value to a 55 string value, that will return false. The next operator we're going to look at is the less than operator. So 55, we type in less than 89, and that should return true since 55 is less than 89. Next one is the greater than operator. So 36 is greater than 77. That will return false. if we type in 55 is less than 55, that will return false because they're actually equals. So what we're going to do here next is we're going to use the assignment operator and set count equal to 55. So the difference between the single equals and the double equal sign, the single equal is the assignment operator, and that's what you use when you want to assign a value to a variable. Whereas the double equals is the equality operator, and that checks to see if the value on the left is equal to the value on the right. So I've assigned 55 into my count variable, and then the next operator we're going to look at is the less than or equal to sign, and we're going to check to see if count, which is 55, is less than 42. It is not, so that will return false. Next one, we'll go ahead and put my age equals to 59, and then we'll compare my age to check to see which is the next comparison operator, which is the greater than or equal. We'll compare it to 29. Oh, I actually typed in the wrong value. My age, wrong variable name, is greater than or equal to 29, and that will return true since the value stored in my age is 59 and it is greater than or equal to 29. So the next thing we're going to talk about are Boolean operators. The two Boolean operators are and, or, and not, and they are used to compare Boolean values. Like comparison operators, they evaluate these expressions down to a Boolean value. So the first thing we're going to look at are the binary Boolean operators. The and or operators always take two Boolean values or expressions, so they're considered binary operators. The AND operator evaluates an expression to true if both Boolean values are true. Otherwise, it evaluates to false. So if we go ahead and type in true and true, that will evaluate to true. If we go ahead and evaluate true and false, that will evaluate to false. If we go ahead and evaluate false and true, again that will evaluate to false. And if we evaluate false and false, that will evaluate to false. So what we have here is the truth table for the AND operator. So basically what it does is it provides all the various combinations and if it evaluates to true or false. So the other binary Boolean operator is the OR operator, and it evaluates an expression to true if either of the two Boolean operators is true. If both are false, it evaluates to false. So the first one we're going to compare false or true, and that should evaluate to true because one of the operators is true. We'll evaluate false or false. That will evaluate to false. That is only case where the OR operator will evaluate to false. If we do true or false, that will evaluate to true. And finally, true or true will also evaluate to true. So the lines, these past four statements are actually the truth table for the OR operator. Again, it shows you all combinations and what they evaluate to. So like I stated earlier, the only case that an OR will evaluate to false if both binary, the value on the left side and the value on the right side are false. And then the Finally, it's the not operator, operates on only one Boolean value or expression. The not operator simply evaluates to the opposite Boolean value. So if we go ahead and type in not true, that will evaluate to false because it evaluates to the opposite. If we type in not false, it will evaluate to true. And then you could do something like not true, and that'll evaluate to true. How this works is the first expression evaluates to false, the next not evaluates to true, the next not evaluates to false, and then finally not false is true. So the last thing we're going to look at is mixing Boolean and comparison operators. Since our comparison operators evaluate to Boolean values, you can use them in expressions with the Boolean operators. So what we're going to do here is we're going to type in an expression. 1 is less than 4, and 7 is less than 8. So what that should evaluate is to true, because both of those are true. 1 is less than 4 and 7 is less than 8. If we go ahead and type the next one in, 2 is less than 3 and 6 is less than 3. That should evaluate to false. The first expression is true. 2 is less than 3. However, 6 is not less than 3. So that'll evaluate to false. And then we're going to do a couple of OR examples. So what we're going to type in, 4 equals 4, or 3 equals 3, and that should evaluate to true. Both of these are actually true, so the OR will evaluate to true. And then we're going to type in 2 is not equal to 2, or 3 equals 3. That will evaluate to true, because 3 is equal to 3, and only in an OR statement, only one expression needs to evaluate to true for the compound expression to be true. So that's what I wanted to cover as far as Booleans, comparison operators, Boolean operators, binary Boolean operators, and mixing Boolean and comparison operators.